Hey, I want to talk to you today with Berit about forgiveness and healing. The first thing that I received a couple of days ago when I was writing in the morning, I channel and receive information from the universe, and I received it around healing, that it is never, ever, ever too late to heal. It doesn't matter how old we are or how long we've been in a pattern, but you can heal at any time. And what does healing involve? Healing involves a lot of things. Healing involves awareness. You have to be aware of what it is that is not healed or not whole, which is your beliefs or your patterns or your obstacles, what's in the way of healing. So it involves awareness. And the second thing that came to me, which I was very surprised about, is forgiveness, because
Mm,
I always felt that forgiveness is a personal choice, and you can heal without forgiveness to a point. And like, if there's people who harmed you and you don't have any contact with them, and you there's no account or there's no accountability, you can still heal. But there's something around forgiveness which involves having compassion, having an understanding, letting go of resentments and anger. But there's something bigger around forgiveness, that if we don't reach that place of forgiveness, then the healing is not complete.
mhm,
And
mhm,
it's not to rush to forgiveness, because we have to feel the anger and we have to have the awareness and the sadness first. But what I realized is forgiveness is for us,
mhm,
not for the other
mhm,
person. It's not about condoning. And also, the first person we always need to forgive is ourselves.
mhm,
And
mhm,
then we have the capacity and the desire to forgive someone else who's wronged us. And I say this not because we're blaming ourselves when someone has hurt us, but we can blame ourselves. When I say not because we're blaming ourselves, meaning not because we necessarily have done wrong, but we do so often blame ourselves. We do so often do things, we act out when we have been harmed or someone has done something to us, whether we realize it or not. So healing does involve forgiveness. And the first step is about forgiving ourselves.
mhm, mhm. Beautiful. So beautiful. I feel when just listening to you, number one, that I'm just feeling so much is honoring ourselves. When you forgive ourselves, we're really saying, yes, I really allowing us to feel all of it, the horror, the anger, the shame, the whatever we're feeling. It's just to love ourselves fully for that and to feel it all. And that's where you're speaking about the awareness and speaking about that forgiveness first. To I'm just hearing, for those in the Lord's Prayer, forgive us our debts as we forgive our debtors. Forgive us our trespasses as we forgive those who trespass against us. Forgive ourselves first is what is in this prayer.
Yeah.
And then we can go and forgive others, because what you're speaking to, which I'm just hearing so clearly, is that we're still bound to that situation and to that person, perhaps. And so when we don't fully heal, we haven't actually cut that cord with that situation, and to allow it to really give it to the universe or give it to God, and let God or the higher powers and so forth take that from us. It's not that it's negating or denying what's happened or what we're feeling or that relationship, but it's moving it into a new space where we are giving ourselves full love, forgiveness. When we forgive ourselves, it opens the opportunity in time to forgive another. Again, it's not negating that this has not happened, but it's allowing the compassion to come in. Because when people are doing what they do that is so hurtful, it's because they're in pain. And it allows it to expand into this bigger giving it to God, giving it to the universe, for the universe to manage that, to allow that energy and, kind of a healing to happen. And it heals ourselves because it allows us to fully release things that have been weighing us. And the last thing is, when you think of forgiving yourself, it really, the other person doesn't really, you said it so perfectly. It's about ourselves. It's the other person probably doesn't care, but it has to do with us. It has to do with us. So when we do that, we're honoring ourselves, we're loving ourselves, we're releasing it to a higher power. And what's replaced is compassion and love for ourselves and around the situation and for others, to bring them back into, and however that is to be, into that sense of consciousness.
Yes. And I was thinking when you mentioned the about the Lord's Prayer and God and all of that, it's not about a religious. And so we're not about, going into the religious, because whatever people believe, the universe, a higher power, God, anything, it's you form your own connection with whatever it is that's bigger than you.
Exactly.
And I think it's necessary in order to go through this forgiveness process. People who feel disconnected, people who feel apart, connection is also part of the healing process. I just wanted to add that piece. And the self-blame that we can have when people have harmed us is stifling, and it actually keeps us from forgiving ourselves, because it's very common to blame ourselves when something uncontrollable happens to us.
Mm-hmm.
And when someone harms us, maybe no matter what age we are, it's very scary, and it can feel very daunting, and it can feel when we feel like a victim, or when we are a victim, we can blame ourselves as a way to honing in on some control of the situation, even if logically we know that we were not involved in it. So we can start with forgiving that around self-forgiveness. I forgive myself for blaming myself, and really going into that place of forgiveness for ourselves, for whatever transpired in our life because of what we experienced, how somebody harmed us, how we've had trauma or abuse, or whatever it is that we are holding on resentments about. So you're right, you can release the resentments, you can release the anger, but it starts with self-forgiveness, and then it can spread to forgiving other people, because we cannot forgive someone else. We cannot have compassion for someone else if we don't have it for ourselves.
Exactly.
It's impossible. So really just start around having some love and compassion for yourself. If you feel that you're holding on to some sort of resentments, just try to hone in on that love and compassion and that larger awareness around who you were in that situation, how old you were in that situation, and how uncontrollable it might have felt. And bring in that compassion, which can bring in that self-forgiveness. And then you've already started down the process of forgiving other people. But if we don't forgive ourselves, then the healing, it gets stagnated, and it doesn't really feel completed, and we can let it go.
Yeah,
So
time. It still keeps you time. I'm just remembering just one more thing, that of a beautiful channel letter that you had channeled from someone who passed, and they were saying the two biggest things is loving ourselves and forgiveness. Those are the two gifts. And how when we are reaching sort of the end of our life, or we don't know when that is, but is to release, try to come in this realm while you're still here on earth, to find that forgiveness of ourselves and others, before you pass so that you don't have to continue to do that from the other side.
Yes. And I just heard, I'm always thinking about what works for people. And some people, the word forgiveness, they think I can never forgive the person for what they've done. And I started out talking about awareness. You can change forgiveness to understanding. You understand it from a higher perspective. And because we can connect with people who have passed with higher souls, we do get brought into that bigger picture, that understanding. And if you can't forgive because you feel like you're condoning it, even though you're not, think of it as, I understand why that happened, and then feel the feelings that go along with it. You can't bypass the feelings, so you have to feel the anger and the deep pain. But okay, now I can understand it. Just the most important thing is not to rush to that forgiveness or understanding without addressing those feelings, because those feelings will keep you tied to it. And the other letter that I thought about when you brought up, I channel letters from people who have passed, is there was a man who was hit by a car, and and his wife had passed after him, but he wasn't with his wife on the other side. He was alone. He was tied to this anger about what happened to him. And by hearing his feelings around it, by him allowing himself to express his anger to me, and from my understanding, which is a witnessing, so we can help other people with forgiveness by hearing them and helping them with the bigger picture, he was able to release it and go and be with his wife, which he couldn't do for almost 25 years. So there's really there's so much benefit to addressing the feelings of the resentment and and going to that self-compassion and self-forgiveness, and then opening up to the bigger picture of forgiving others. So thank you for joining us, and we wish you a very wonderful holiday season and a happy new year. Thank you.